لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا.
Get one of these. I got a question for you guys. Come on, you answer you real questions. Yeah, read the back of that. You think God's a man. And you tell people to use their mind. What God and went to the loo and poo-pooed and breathed. That's God. Well, it's God, a white man as well. That's brilliant. White men are devils, so you're God's a white man.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. Welcome to another episode on The Deen Show. We're here every week, same time, same channel, broadcasting live from Chicago. So for those of you that don't catch us here at the local cable station at CAN TV, you can view all of our shows at TheDeenshow.com. Now, today's guest, when we come back, you can see his story on how he accepted Islam. Imam Qasim, who went from being a Baptist Christian to the Nation of Islam to Islam, which simply means surrender and submission to the Creator of the heavens and the earth. Summed up with one word, Islam. Now, when we come back, we're going to be talking about his days with the Nation of Islam, because there's some people here who might be confused. Islam, Nation of Islam, what does it have to do with Islam? So we're going to try to educate the sincere, humble truth seekers out there. You don't want to go nowhere. We'll be right back.
Allah, there's only one God and Muhammad is his messenger. Allah, la ilaha illallah. Allah, there's only one God and Jesus was his messenger. Allah, la ilaha illallah.
I don't know why I did that. Maybe it's just to break the ice.
In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful, I testify and I bear witness that Allah alone is worthy of being worshipped, and that Muhammad ibn Abdullah, who lived 1,400 years ago in Arabia, he is the slave of Allah and his messenger, and he is the last messenger. Every Muslim believes that Muhammad is the last prophet. As for those people who say that another man is a prophet after Muhammad, like the black people, Nation of Islam, they call themselves, then there's no racism in Islam. The Prophet Muhammad, the real Prophet Muhammad, 1,400 years ago taught that there's no difference between the white man and the black man. There's no difference between the Arab and the non-Arab except in one thing. The one thing is the degree to which you worship your Lord, you fear him, and you obey him. Taqwa. That's the only difference between the people.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How you doing, Eddie?
Good, alhamdulillah.
Good.
Imam Qasim, here on The Deen Show.
Once again.
Once again. We have a show that we did with you. Right. People can go to TheDeenshow.com. It was labeled, and we were actually talking about your days of being a Christian, and then how you went to the Nation of Islam. So people can go to the website. It's under the section Americans who have accepted Islam, and they can see this two-part episode that we did. It's a very enlightening and interesting story. Now, today we want to talk about a little bit about your days with the Nation of Islam, because there's some confusion out there. People think that this is kind of the same thing because you have the name Islam, which is used alongside with the Nation of Islam. So let's start with what is this Nation of Islam? Let's start right there. What is this?
Well, it's easier for me to talk about what it was than what it is now, because I'm not connected with it now, and a lot of the brothers who I know personally now, they're a part of the Nation of Islam. Most of them weren't part of the original Nation of Islam. So I'm not. So I like to talk about what it was, because I was part of what it was.
Okay, so when you were part of it back then, what was it? And you were actually, if I might say, you were a minister.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. The Nation of Islam actually was an organization that was set up with more or less a nationalistic base. Actually, there was a strategy that I learned later was a strategy by Elijah Muhammad to stop the African American or black people, whatever names we want to call them, from blundering themselves with the immorality and getting caught up in many of the vices that had become popular here in America. And so the Nation of Islam, although it appeared at the outset as being a religion, it actually was a way to make the African American or black people focus on themselves and focus on improving themselves and improving their outlook and raise a level of self-respect for themselves. That's how it was started.
So what were because now if we put it next to Islam, which is the Arabic word which means surrender and submission, devout obedience to the one God.
Right.
Now what are their core teachings? Can you tell us now, when you were introduced to this, what did you believe? Did you believe in a God? Do they believe in the last and final messenger? What was the creed, the crust?
The focus was reverse psychology.
Yeah.
Because the African American or black people during that time, during the 50s, 60s, and so forth, even into the 70s, actually during that time of the creation of the original Nation of Islam, had been taught that the white race was superior.
Yes.
And then and that the white race had been guilty of many atrocities that are very well documented. And so Elijah Muhammad, his idea and his strategy was to make the black people focus on improving themselves. And so he used reverse psychology. So where we had been fed a complete diet of white supremacy, he began to feed a diet of angry and vindictive black people, a serious diet of black supremacy. So he kind of reversed that psychology, to make us focus on ourselves. So when we developed the morals that he was teaching us at that time, that we shouldn't smoke cigarettes, we shouldn't drink, we shouldn't use drugs, we shouldn't use profanity, we just stay clean and all of that, then he was teaching us that by doing that, we were actually doing the actual reverse of what the white slave masters wanted us to do. Because so we actually were cleaning up ourselves more or less as a grudge. We're cleaning up ourselves only out of spite. Said, no, you're not going to tell us, you're not going to feed us the drugs, you're not going to feed us the alcohol, you're not going to feed us profanity and X-rated movies, you're not going to feed that to us, because just to spite you, because that's what you want us to do, then we're going to stay away from all of that. And we were taught that was Islam. And so now, the language that began to echo across America of the white man being the devil was seemingly justified by the treatment that white people have been giving black people over the years. The slaves that were brought over to America were treated worse than any slaves in the history of slavery anywhere in the world. The slaves who were brought over to America were not only robbed of their freedom, they were robbed of their name, robbed of their culture. So it was easy to tell these people who had been experiencing all of this, with all of the lynchings and rapes and murders and things that have been going on in America, it was easy to convince a country full of angry black people that the white man was the devil, because only a devil would do the things that had been done. So it was easy for him to feed us that and give it any kind of title. So we didn't try to challenge any research that may have been done or may have not been done by Elijah Muhammad. When he gave what he taught us, the title Islam, we just accepted that. Okay, this must be Islam. That we're supposed to not drink and smoke because that's what the devil, who we believe in our mind was the white man, wanted us to do. We shouldn't drink and use drugs and alcohol and stay filthy and dirty. We shouldn't do that because that's what the devil who brought us here, the devil who took our names, the devil that that's what he wanted us to do. So it was easy to convince these black people that this was Islam. He really could have given it any kind of title, and we would have accepted it anyway because we didn't want to trust anything white at that time. That's what was the climate of America at that time.
So our intention here with this show is to really, because there are a lot of sincere men and women who are searching for the truth.
Right.
And there was a well-known popular rapper named Snoop Dogg. And he just had declared his conversion to the Nation of Islam. So for myself and many people who sit back and they see this, we see him going in the wrong direction.
Okay.
Because we know that messengers are sent throughout time.
Right.
These messengers never called people to worship themselves, to worship the sun, the moon. They all called people to worship the one God. They all called to the same message of surrender and submission to God alone and not His creation,
right.
which is in Arabic summed up with Islam. Now we have the last and final messenger who came, the Prophet
right.
Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Right.
But now when you look at this nation, what they call it, of Islam, and like I said, we don't want to upset nobody, hurt nobody's feeling. We want those sincere and humble people who might have fallen into this, just like you were a part of this.